Hey guys, welcome back to the studio. Today we have fitness professional, entrepreneur, and Fit Body Bootcamp franchise owner, Barrett Henson. Welcome to the studio, Barrett.
Dude, pleasure to be here, Mike, man.
So glad you're here. How was the ride in?
Dude, it's us Michiganders will love this because, like, in Michigan, man, you can talk about weather all the time and you can talk about weather multiple times throughout a conversation because it can change that quickly, right?
Yes.
I mean, yesterday it was beautiful, man. It was amazing. And what do we have today? Nothing but gloomy rain. I love it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, but all the snow has melted.
It is.
We are gold.
You know, there is a silver lining.
Yes.
I would much rather have not that, sticky, sleety, icy stuff. Right now it also kind of gets me in the, because at the time of filming this, we're in March, right? March of 25. And, this is the best time of year, man. It's a sign of new beginnings. Here in Michigan, you get to start to see the sun a little longer, the green stuff, the flowers bloom, man. And I like to say all my family and cousins and friends and such who don't live, maybe they live in California, it's like, listen, you don't get to see the spring like we get to see the spring, man.
Yeah, we get some cool seasons. And I'm so glad that you're here in March, actually, because being a Fit Body Bootcamp franchise owner, you are coming off of the new year, right? Like fresh off the new year with everybody and their goals. And I think it's a great time to have a guest with all your expertise on the podcast just to help people keep focused.
I love that. Appreciate
and motivated. Yeah, absolutely. So what were some of your goals going into the new year here?
Shoot, man. There's always, like, when I take a step back to think about what do I need to work on? Like, the first thing that I'm always looking at is, hey, how do I improve something in my life? And to me, there's always three things that I'm gonna look at: my personal life, my relationship, with Heather, my partner, and my family, my brother, my everybody, right?
Yeah.
That's one aspect. Another aspect is like my own personal development. I need to be doing something that's going to actually make me better, whether it's getting in a mastermind, going back to, studying up my Spanish and making that a part of who I am, to make sure. So something that I need to focus on my own personal development. And then there's something that, I want to do that's a big, audacious, hairy goal that's going to challenge me from a fitness level perspective. So like when I take a sit back, that's kind of the lens, that I'm looking for or looking through. And probably the one that has been most on my radar this year, don't get me wrong, I have, goals in each one, is really making time for my 501c3. That's actually the biggest one. I know we're going to talk about this today, which is amazing. But, for me, I think that when you start going towards something like external like that, like it's gonna stretch you. What's the saying? Adversity introduces a man to himself. You're going to start to prioritize what you need to do in order to get there. And for me, like, we sponsored the last 10 years has continued to grow. Last year, we sponsored 120 foster children at the holiday season. I do have goals of sponsoring the entire system that we work with on that, the 501c3. But this year, we want to get 150. And I know that that's going to be uncomfortable because we typically grow about 15. So I'm going to try and double the growth of what we've had in that, which is hard when I look at that's my passion project, right? And unfortunately, sometimes it gets the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
Because, I have my location in Berkley. I also work for the franchise as the executive director of franchise development. So it's like I have essentially 2 full-time jobs already now, a third time with this.
Yeah.
And man, it like, that's actually what fills my cup, though, which is wild. We all have, something, don't get me wrong, exercise and working out, that fills my cup too.
Yes.
But if you don't have something in my opinion, if you don't have something to chase, you're kind of like being in a hamster wheel or being in a rocking chair. It's going to give you something to do, but it's not going to get you anywhere. So for me, like when I externalize something to chase, and I want to make sure it's the right thing to chase, it's amazing what you end up doing to try and find out, how far you can go and really what you're made of and what you can do in a short amount of time. But kind of comes down to prioritizing, putting it out there. And the other thing I've found out is just make sure to tell somebody, like right here, telling people.
Yes.
Because now I'm like, oh my God, everybody, I just wrote the check, right?
Yes.
150, that's what I'm freaking going for,
man. Something about putting it out to the universe.
It is.
Yeah.
Nature abhors a vacuum. I'm going to go to work to make sure that it gets done. Like and that's kind of the fun part. And when you take the time, and I think sometimes we just look at external goals, and it's great. Don't get me wrong, you need to, but when you actually take the time to really get laser sharp on that, and measure twice, cut once. When you start measuring, you can really get granular about, hey, where can you make ground? Where can you do a little bit better? And I think sometimes, it's good to be looking at the big picture.
Yep.
But you do got to get down in the weeds sometimes. And I think that the bigger you get in your professional, development, we have a tendency to want to be up with the eagles and soar in the clouds, and that's great. But some of the best leaders, I think the best leaders on the planet are going to go down and they're going to inject themselves in the weeds sometimes.
It all happens in the weeds
because you have to sometimes.
That's where the bigger picture comes.
For sure,
play,
for sure,
from
man.
being in the weeds,
So
amazing.
that's a big thing, and I think that was a really deep introduction to goals and checking in.
It's perfect.
But I think it's important, and we break things down. In Fit Body Bootcamp, we follow a business structure called EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, where you're going down to quarterlies, right? Breaking it down into quarters. There's a lot of other philosophies out there for a 12-week year. As you break things up, all that. They all work. Pick your system. Go with your system. Get into your system. But break it down, measurable, bite size. If you just sit there and say, hey, at the end of the year, I want to be here without check-ins, that's like running the marathon without stopping for water. You know what I mean? How are you going to do that, right?
You got to stay hydrated.
A little bit.
Yes.
So,
I love it. I hear great things about Fit Body Bootcamp Berkley. You guys have a machine out there, and the right man is running that machine. It's amazing. I just had someone in my studio not too long ago. I also have a 501c3, and one of the mothers of one of the young men that my 501c3 supports was in here letting me know about a good friend of hers who dropped, I want to say, 33 pounds so far on her fitness journey via Fit Body Bootcamp Berkley.
Oh, man.
So that's amazing.
It is, man. And I'll tell you, that stuff, I get the chills. I got a little bit of goosebumps right now, being honest. That's what it's about. That's really it. But it's actually not about the weight. It's not. That's just the first step.
Right.
That's just the first step. And I tell people, we're actually a self-improvement program that just so happens to deliver kick butt workouts.
Yes.
I'm going to train the 6 inches between your ears. That's actually what I train. And that's what I want to train. Because if I can train those 6 inches between your ears, fitness is just one aspect, but what about you and your professional, your home life, being a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, whatever it is, all of a sudden you become better at those things. And I just think consistency compounds, And that to me is the ultimate sign, the ultimate way of self-improvement, self-development, and self-confidence. And the more that you do that, the more you develop self-confidence to say hey, this is going to be hard, but guess what? I'm used to doing hard things. This is just going to be another hard thing that I get to do.
Yeah.
That's what actually fitness is about. So, dude, I love it. And Tony Robbins says that progress equals motivation. So those 33 pounds, that's the progress, that's the motivation. And it's going to keep her continuing to go on other parts of her life. And that's actually the transformation I love most. Don't get me wrong, inches, pounds, it works really nice in the marketing on when I get to do that, and it's cool, and that's what people want. But it's actually what happens under the hood, the change under the hood. That's the most important change,
up on
man.
You.
It does.
I know for me, with my fitness journey and my wellness journey, it was I really went hardcore into personal and professional development when I was starting up my 501c3. I was facing some adversity, and all of the aesthetics that came from my fitness journey were really motivated by my professional and personal development, and so I can really relate to that. And so the aesthetics are just an added bonus that come with it. And then it was kind of if you start charting, during that time, I had faced a ton of adversity. So I didn't necessarily, have the kind of funds to be working with the trainer or anything like that. So I had to become my own trainer. Yeah. Right. And so
get resourceful, man.
Yes. And so my gym was often Kensington Metro Park in Milford, and it has the 8-mile loop. I would walk 8 miles a day, but it also has a fitness training equipment all along the way, pull-up bars and all that stuff. Have you ever been out there?
Yeah.
It's amazing. And so that was my office. It was my gym. It was my, my wellness space.
Oh,
and it was amazing. And so, and then I was able to, kind of work my way into a very inexpensive gym membership that, helped me, kind of shape my core and all of those things and my mind at the same time. So man, yes. Yes, we are on the same page, and I love that. Anybody that has any kind of a journey into fitness, whether it be motivated by weight loss first, you get there eventually mentally.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So with a guide like you, steering the ship, wow, what lucky clients you must have.
And I'll like being totally honest, man. Like, yeah, we do a lot of great things. Nothing in my facility happens without the coaches, the team, like the entire team, George, Heather, Janae, all the way up and down, our coaches, they make the magic. Like it's crazy. Like people will tell me, oh my God, like you guys have done so great. And I'm like, hey, at the end of the day, like it's actually them. Yeah. Like they make me look good, you know?
Right.
And I've found, and this is just what I have found, because I don't have as much time as I wish I had for them. But the time that I do have, I have to make it magical. The other part is I have to make sure that those people are the right people who are going to take care of clients. And so when I look to bring somebody on my team, like I tell them, I actually do not care about your fitness level, like anything about fitness.
Right.
I care about two things. Number one, are you a good person? And number two, are you a good teammate? Those are the only two things that I'm looking at. And during my internship, and when we have interns come on, it's 12-week internship. I'm going to pay them like that sort of stuff. It's their probationary window. But during that time, I always tell them, listen, I'm not the one who's going to hire you. I just sit there. I manage the outcome.
Yeah.
The team hires you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be able to sit back in here and know whether you're a good teammate and whether you're a good person. Because for us, like it is like the exercise science, I promise we're good at that.
Yeah,
I can do that, but it's not the exercise science. It's very little to do with the exercise science. It has everything to do with how you can pull it out of somebody. And I have to pull it out of my coaches, and I have to pull it out of the leaders, the leadership team on my organization, for them to pull it out of the coaches that I don't get to work with, on the day-to-day. But for me, it always starts with good people, and I can't
relationship building.
You can't fake that.
No.
And you honestly, and what I have found is that you have to care more about those people than you do about anything else.
Right.
And I can tell you this, like the people who work on our team and who support and provide the experience to our clients, like I care about what they are doing and what they are doing in their life more than anything. And I tell them, like, listen, at some point you are going to leave me. We're going to have a divorce. I'm not going to live forever.
Right.
Like Father Time is undefeated.
Yes.
He's undefeated. Tom Brady gave him a hell of a run. I'll tell you that much,
Yes.
and football, geez. But, Father Time's undefeated when you look at that. So what do I need to do? I need to care about the person's development.
Right.
And if I can develop them to a point where like I continue to push them, like I want them to turn around and look back at the time they had with me to be like, oh my God, you cared about the future me. Yeah. And dude, that's what I like. Every client, every person who walks through my door, like that's all I care about is the future them. And can I have a little imprint on them and just, give them a springboard. Yeah. Just give them a little springboard, right? And when you look for those opportunities, and I think when you look for doing that in other people, like, dude, you'll find excellence in your own self, because it goes back to identifying, those things that can act as a springboard. And I think more often than not in the fitness game, just in general, most people tend to look at fitness through their own lens. I mean, just in general, we always look at life through our own lens. And we'll be like, hey, if you ask a whole bunch of fitness is like ice cream. There's 1,000 flavors and everyone has their taste, so you ask 1,000 different personal trainers, you ask 1,000 different people in fitness and different modalities, what's the best one? You're going to get a whole bunch of different opinions.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. What matters is, are you going to stay consistent? Consistency compounds.
Now, when you're working with someone too, are you customizing plans based on that person's level of ability? Like when someone comes to you and they want to, onboard, what if they're limited in mobility?
That's a great question, man. I think, more often than not, most people, when they get ready to hop into group fitness, they're like, oh my God, like people are going to judge me. It's like, dude. And I'm like, hey, I get it. I understand. I've seen this. No matter how many times I reinforce, hey, listen, I promise you, everybody's going to be so concerned with themselves that they're not going to be looking at you. I promise. It takes a handful of sessions for people to understand that, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, but when somebody does come in, I mean, we are group personal training. Yep. So it is a little bit challenging to really go in and one-on-one, do that. But we bring clients in on an orientation and first, because I want to get to know them. I want to understand what is their mobility, what are their potential limitations, what are the things that we need to know for two reasons. Number one, that gives that person an incredible experience. I want to make sure that they feel safe, that they feel supported.
Yeah, that's amazing.
because if you feel supported in anything, dude, you're going to do really well. Like think about kids when they turn and like the first time they meet an adult and they're afraid, but the moment in which they trust and then they become a kid, right? They run around, they'll jump on them, like that sort of stuff. That's what I need to do with our clients, right? I need to make them feel supported. So I'll bring them in. The other thing that's really important too is I need to do that too, because I got 20, 30 other people in a session, and I need to make sure that I'm not sinking all of my time in these 2, 3 new people, and I'm neglecting the rest of the clients.
Right.
So there's a big reason, it's a dual purpose reason, but that first like orientation, getting to understand them, that's how we get to really like, hey, in that first week, we're going to be able to dial things. And oftentimes we talk about this at Fit Body Bootcamp. I want to know your Ford. Now here in Metro Detroit, I'm not talking about the auto manufacturer, Ford Field. I'm talking about family, occupations, recreation, dreams.
Love that.
That's what I want my coaches, I want my people to know about your family, your occupation, your recreation, your dreams. Because if I get to know about those things, I can help push buttons that help intrinsically motivate yourself on what's important in your life. And at the same time, I get to understand like from a mobility, whatever you're doing, how I can, influence you to do things to challenge you also, in a safe manner. Yeah. So that it all comes down. If I can get to know your Ford, like I can develop that sense of trust with you and your trust in my organization, in my fitness program, that's going to help you. It's going to support you, because I tell you what, we think about the exercise science so much, man. It's wild how much we think about it, where it comes a little bit second nature to us. But at the end of the day, like we're going to do all that thinking and that's done. But when it comes time for clients to come in, we have to adapt. We have to pivot, change, and adjust to make sure that what we're trying to do fits the needs of clients, and doing that at scale. So before session, and the more that we get to know them, we can walk up and be like, hey, Mike, I know that back's bothering you a little bit. Hey, guess what? Today, I don't want you doing this. I want you,
there it is.
And that comes down to getting to know you.
Yes.
But we need to get to know you.
Yeah.
And that's why like in coaching in life, and it's the relationship.
Yeah.
And
well, you actually care about the person's progress. Yeah.
Totally.
You want to see them develop.
Totally.
Right?
It's not just
themselves
right.
back.
It's not just like, hey, go pick up the heaviest weight.
Right.
It's like, no. We need to make sure you're doing it right first, like this and that. And sometimes like something for you might be amazing for you to do, but there might be a limitation that I have that I shouldn't be doing, and it's interesting because like as athletic as I've been able to be in my life, and I've been very fortunate, I've had a few surgeries in my life, about 6 of them. So I got some mobility challenges sometimes, and having 2 back surgeries, sometimes I'm like, guess what? Today, that's not going to happen.
Not flipping the tire today, right?
We're not doing that today. Yeah. We're going to do something else.
Yeah.
And I think actually the most important thing for me to do in that moment is actually showcase that to my people, my clients, my coaches, my everybody. Because listen, I'm human too.
Yeah, you got to share those vulnerabilities.
Dude, I'm human.
I relate to everything you said, and I completely respect everything you said. And, I learned that getting into jiu-jitsu, because I'd always been into fitness, but like back in 2020, I got into jiu-jitsu, and I was a little bit worried being in my mid 40s, like getting into jiu-jitsu at that time, because I vetted out like 3 schools, and one was like ultimate street fighting right off the rip. And I was like, yeah, no. And so but the school that I ultimately landed at was like starting from the ground up and learning the mechanics.
Oh, yeah.
I had top tier instructors who I'm still friends with to this day. And I really jumped in, and I had some mobility issues myself. I worked in the mental health field with young men with intermittent explosive disorder for like 20 years at that time. And I was really, alarmed about some of my mobility issues at times. Yeah. You never know when it's going to pop up.
For sure.
So, but for the most part, I train like a well-oiled machine as best I can with those minor setbacks from time to time. But I had instructors much like you that were willing to take the time, and I trained. I was very committed, so I trained 3 times a day. I would come in the morning class, the noon class, and then the evening class. But then I didn't want to hold anybody back in the class either. Like you said, you can't just give all of your time if you're the instructor, kind of the program director, to just 2 folks. Maybe you gotta the whole class to focus on. But so I would train privately also. Sure. So I could be like, hey, I'm having a tough time in this area, and I really don't want to pull you away from the rest of the class. Like, can we work on this? And we would do that. And so you guys, I love your personalized approach.
And I think you need to in life. You need to in life. And I think that's also too, in my opinion, it's one of the things we've been missing as the technological advancement that, I mean, don't get me wrong, technology is so amazing. Like I can grab my phone, I can, get anything I need like that now. And it's amazing.
Instant gratification.
It's also created a lot of challenges.
Absolutely.
Patience being one of them. And I'm guilty too. I mean, dude, we all have that, right? When I look at, everything that happens and we're so connected, but are we? And that's actually my question. Are we? We might be connected at the point of a text message, but are you actually emotionally connected on that? And I think the coach to client relationship in anything, the coach to mentor to mentee, like that's everything.
Huge.
That is everything.
It's
and
huge.
People need to feel that, not know it. They need to feel it. And at the end of the day, that's what I tell our coaches, our team. Like, I have to win in the feelings game first. Like they have to know that we care for them, so that when you're like, hey, I'm really working on this, in your role, like when you're going to roll with somebody, like when it happens, it becomes second nature. But you have to make the time and you have to be willing also. And man, good on you for doing intro stuff and really getting somebody to one-on-one work with you. This is just something that I see inherently in fitness. Oftentimes people come in and they have this, hey, this is what I want to look like at the end, right? This is what I want to get to. Well, just remember, that's one point. That's point B. Well, we're at point A right now. Like, it isn't as much as the fastest way is a straight line. It's not a straight line. It's actually like it kind of goes like this.
Ebbs and flows.
Yeah, like that sort of thing as you go. And I think sometimes we have this expectation that it's, going to go straight line right to that, when you're going to face some setbacks. And I think like this is what I've seen in the instant gratification. The beautiful part about technology is it helps you stay connected. You can find answers really quick. The hard part is I think sometimes it sets a misalignment of expectations on how easy something is, because at the end of the day, it might look easy to that person who's, doing it on that Instagram reel. How many times have they done that before, though?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what people forget is the amount of reps. And I say this to our coaches, at Fit Body Bootcamp and the brand. I'm like, look, we have to practice. We have to be so brilliant at the basics when we're training people, right? I want us to be so brilliant at the basics, the hellos, like the things that take zero zero talent, like holding the door, saying hi, like asking questions, being the best at those things, because that gets you connected to that person so that you can help them. And you have to do that every day. You have to do that all the time. It's not sometimes, it's all the times. And when you practice like that at a championship level, the reality is you don't actually, the trophy is won in the practice field. You just go collect it at competition. That's it. So what are you doing every day on, having those conversations, utilizing the magic time? That's what I call it. That's what we call it. When clients come in, there's usually about 5 to 10 minutes before the session, 5 to 10 minutes after the session ends, before they're changing their shoes to leave.
Yep.
Are you using that magic time? That is magic time. The reason why it's called magic time is it's because it is the one portion that you can actively choose to use or lose. And the best of the best, when you use it, like you're actually going to develop a relationship with people.
And I like that you call it magic time, because that is where the magic happens.
It is.
It's in the details,
right?
There. Yes.
It's right there.
Yes.
The session is just like this. The workout is just the process of what you're doing.
Exactly.
You're putting yourself through. It's the magic time where the connection's made. And that's where the actual like springboard is.
Yes. I noticed, my mom kind of had a similar mode for that, where it was like if we were doing things, me and my two brothers as young boys, and she was prepping a meal for dinner, and she would get us in there and make us like chop the carrots for the stew or whatever. It was like she did exactly this, where the magic moments were, because we had that task and we're right with her and we're chopping the veggies and we're at the counter and she's having conversations with us, much like you're having conversations with your clients, because the magic was in the conversation.
And I think that's actually a lost art, in parenting.
Yeah.
And I think in parenting in general, and I'm not a parent, but more often than not, we want to just give our kids everything we didn't have. When it's like, I think you should actually spend the time giving them the time investment that you wish you had. Yet we're hardwired to just, pay. I'll pay for it. I'll pay for the experience, like whatever it is. I'm guilty of that too. But when you make time, and I look at this at my like personal relationships, like any personal relationship that you have, the reason why the relationship is so strong is because of the time investment, not the monetary investment.
Right.
It's the time investment. And I think that like cooking with your mom, like, dude,
that was where the relationship building was happening.
Because
right?
guess what? Mom gets to go like, hey, how did math go today?
Right,
How did this? Like,
yes.
what's happening in soccer practice?
Yeah.
Or whatever's happening. All of a sudden it introduces the opportunity for conversation, you know? And I think it's funny because I like to say us guys just in general, we like to do things. Like I like to do stuff. So whenever I'm trying to like bond with somebody, I want to do something. I want to work out with them, you know, with my cousins. And I have a set of cousins who are a little bit younger than Bryce and I. And like I'll have them over to the house and I want to do stuff with them, you know, like cut down some freaking trees.
Right.
Like my cousin came over to help us cut down trees too. And it's like we're doing something together where there's a sense of like togetherness. I'm actually learning too, you know, when
accomplishment,
I go through 100%.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it's like, what did we really do? We freaking cut down some trees with whatever, you know, but the outcome was the time together, the memory that we had, and learning a little bit, you know, about whatever. I mean, from the time where you're sitting there like having lunch afterwards and this and that. It's about the relationship in everything we do, from fitness, from leadership, from mentorship. If you do not make the time to develop a relationship, it's nothing's going to last. It becomes transactional.
Yep.
And I'm not like, there's money in a transaction, there's wealth in a relationship, you know, and that's, I want the wealth of a relationship, you know, because when that happens too, like we're going to make mistakes. I freaking make them all the time. When you're real, and when you're authentic and you have a relationship with somebody, they're going to give you grace on your mistakes.
Right.
They're going to. I'm not perfect. As much as I try and strive to deliver a perfect experience, I know that I'm never going to give a perfect experience.
Bad days.
Right. I mean, stuff happens. Life ambushes. Like, you know, nothing's perfect. What I want to make sure is that I can create a system that I'm going to give all of my attention, every little bit, and then I'm going to go back and learn from it.
Yeah. What I love about you too is that you make a great coach because you've faced adversity. You know, you're no stranger to it, and you didn't have everything handed to you as a child growing up. You know, just to give the audience a little context, we have your brother Bryce in common, and Bryce Henson is the CEO of Fit Body Boot Camp, and Bryce was actually on episode 1 of the Inner Circle On Air podcast.
Yeah.
And so I know Bryce shared a little bit about his story coming up, and you guys had a great mother that wore both hats, and you know, just what a rock star and a badass raising these two great men. And you guys actually were out in Shelby Township kind of coming up, and we'll talk a little bit about that from your perspective.
Yeah, so it was interesting, and it's something I didn't like talking about growing up, mainly because I felt different. My mother took my brother, my sister, and I out of a pretty hard situation. Our father was, he was a drug addict, also addicted to alcohol, gambling, womanizer, a lot of, not the stereotypical like poster father for stuff. So it was a very challenging, situation, abusive, that sort of thing. And my mom, did probably the hardest thing, looking back, anybody could ever do, and that is jump without looking, jump without seeing the bottom. And so when I step back and think like growing up, like at the end of the day, my mom is she's my hero. Yeah. Like I'm not sitting right here without her. There's not a shadow of a doubt. Like she sacrificed everything. And I think that is actually the sign of true love. Like when I look at like, what is true love? What my mom did for us, that is true love. Like at just selfless, doing whatever it is. So I'm so grateful for that. At the same time, at that moment, I didn't realize it. I was 6 years old, right. All I knew, and it's the beauty about children. When you look at children, we learn from observation. It's how we learn. You look and this and that. When I lived in Central America, like I would get stared at because it was like white guy, blonde. Long hair, blonde, not tan. Yeah. And you sit there and you're like, wow, they learn. And as a child, when I was there, I was learning and looking left and right, and I was like, I am different, so that was a very hard thing to kind of process at that moment. Don't have the nuclear family, everybody else, like father-son games were really awkward. Let's just put it that way. So it was challenging. I didn't like talking about that growing up. And it was also kind of an emotional yo-yo where my father was kind of there, he kind of wasn't, and then he disappeared. So it was tough, you know.
You were the baby, right?
No, I'm middle.
Middle.
My sister's younger, so it's 2 years apart. Bryce is 2 years older. I'm middle, and then my sister's 2 years younger. And so we were all, you know, connected. And if it wasn't for our grandma, you know, we wouldn't have had anywhere to go. So I mean, it's like. So talk about humble beginnings. I mean, very humble by first world standards. And I will tell you, the greatest gift I think that I've given myself was leaving the country to go study abroad and live in Central America in the third world, because it helped open my eyes to be like, you didn't have it that bad.
Right.
Man. You actually, you're in the 1%.
Yeah.
Like whatever you thought you had, you're in the 1%.
Yeah.
That was quite possibly the biggest eye. But when you're 6 years old, you don't understand that. No. You know, it's like you don't. So it was challenging. And, you know, still being honest, I mean, there's still things that I have. I mean, that's a reason why I had a chip on my shoulder. It was like, listen, if it's going to be, it's up to me. I'm going to make sure to do that. I'm going to have to figure it out. And at the time, I didn't like it. It was so uncomfortable not having a dad when it was father-son time. And it was like, it just felt like, you know, the world was pointing at me like, you're different, this and that, not knowing that at that point that is not the case that's happening.
Right.
But, you know, that's how you internalize things, right? So it was challenging, you know, growing up. And, you know, it was, you know, financially challenging too, single mother, you know, living with her grandma on an administrator salary. So, you know, we'd run out of money before we ran out of month. Like that was just kind of what it was. And if it wasn't for grandma, like, we're not here either. So I turn around and I think about that, and I'm like the luckiest human being for those two ladies in my life. And I'll always get emotional when I think about them, because like when I grow up, like that's who I want to embody. Like that's who I want to be. Like, you know, the reason why I work my rear end off is so all of the resources that we, you know, create, the value we produce flows over my cup into everybody else in my network. And I saw that and I learned that because of them. Now, their cup wasn't the same size, you know, just for circumstance, but that was what they did. They knew how to pour that out. And so for me, like that was the best model of love I could ever imagine. I didn't see that I wish I could have saw it at the forefront. And, you know, I wish I would have been understanding. I always say this to my cousins, because Bryce and I, like, our mom was the baby of her family, so all of our cousins were older, and I'm so grateful for our aunts, our uncles, our cousins, because they like looked out for us. They looked out for us so much. But now, like, it's my turn to repay the favor.
Yeah.
Like that's what life is about. And I feel like because of the gift that was given me, the gift of opportunity, I must repay that by continuing to like show up and let it just like, and I want to die broke. That's what I want to do. I want to die broke because I've given it all the way, you know, to good causes, to good people, not just giving, but to provide opportunity. And like this is something that we were talking about before we hopped on. I want to help the willing, not the needy.
And I love that.
I want to help the willing, the
that
people
resonates.
who want to help themselves. And because I was that person. Yeah. I was that person at 6, 7, 8, all the way up. You know, I was looking for that person sticking their hand out because I was going to grab it and I was going to pull myself up. And I think that when you have that, it is your inherent responsibility to do the same. In what avenue? You know, dealer's choice, your choice. I mean, that's like the old, and if you grew up I grew up religious, you know, Catholic, and you know, it's the parable of the gifts, right? You know, get the gifts and you go. If you know, the landowner comes back and I still have the exact same gifts, I didn't invest it, man. Like, what are you investing it in? And sometimes, you know, and one of my good friends and clients, Lomas, said this to me, and he's like, you know, what you give grows. What you give grows, and that like echoes. So like, you know, going back to I want to die broke. I just want to give it to people who are going to do more with it than I can. And I think if you live that way, you're always going to think about the relationships that you have, because like the giving that I'm trying to do, it isn't monetary. It's not always monetary. It's investing in the person there. And I think, you know, we always think, and, you know, just throw money at it. Like, No. Do you think your kids really want to just have money thrown at them?
Well, time is the most valuable gift you can give.
Yeah, ask Warren Buffett, man. I'm sure he'd give all his fortune to go back to where I am right now. He would do it in a freaking New York minute, right? We don't always see that.
Right.
We don't always see it. This is tough. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm human too.
Yes.
I
mean, and it's amazing because just to what you're speaking to now kind of leads up to your nonprofit, your mission, and you're very focused on that. And we talked a little bit off camera about that. I'd love to dive into that, and kind of obviously this kind of like was the seed planting that led up to you wanting to do more on a broader scale.
Yeah, and growing up, Christmas was hard, man. Christmas was hard when you look around and you live in a affluent area. You're with your grandma. What I knew at the time was I was different, but what I didn't know is I had more than, not monetarily more than. I think I had more like care, concern, love, and that sort of stuff. I didn't have the monetary stuff, but at 6 years old, you had a hard time, and that sat with me. And I remember being jealous and a little resentful, as a 6, 7, 8, growing up, that, I'd turn around and look at my friends who had pretty cool Christmas, and, we had a Christmas. And at the end of the day, we had one. And that, to me, looking back, probably the one thing like I, need to give myself a little grace for, because I'm always like, you ungrateful, but you can't do anything about the past.
No.
But what you can do is something about the future.
Yeah. It's funny too, because I had, my mom cooked, we had meals, and I was always jealous or envious of my friends that got fast food all the time.
Which is funny.
I look back and I'm just like, holy shit, I'm so glad my mom cooked, because I love a home cooked meal and I love leftovers and all that stuff. But I was like, why did I want that fast food so badly? Because it's just what somebody else was getting that I wasn't, and I was, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I reflect. I'm thankful.
The famous, Teddy Roosevelt, comparison is a thief of joy.
Yeah.
But we're taught to compare. That's what we do. That's how we learn as kids,
Right.
like that's it. And, I knew by comparing that I had less than. And I also knew that like that hurt when I was younger. Yeah. And, now, or fast forward as, growing up, I knew I wanted to do something. I didn't know what. And when we opened our gym 10 years ago, we just had this idea of, hey, why don't we do something? So we started, putting some money together, raising money to sponsor kids at Christmas time and a holiday season. And first year, we sponsored 4 single mother families. And for me, it was always about people in need. I wanted to make sure. And so we sponsored, it was $800 we raised, 4 single moms. Like, man, it was like, talk about like the best feeling.
Yeah.
Like,
all right. Now I'm getting the goosebumps. Now you're doing them to me this time.
So like I'll never forget the first time we did this. We went down and we gave the presents. And I mean, the funny story is when we went to go shopping, we were shopping. Now this is hilarious. I'll get funny before I get emotional.
Yeah.
We went to Kohl's, and this place at Kohl's in Troy, dude, they are so great. They hook us up. Then this is the first year we did it. We're shopping for 4 single mother families, $800. It took us like 6 hours because we didn't know what the heck we were doing. It was the first year.
Yeah.
This past year we shot for 120, and we were in and out in less than 3 because the machine, we figured it out.
Yes.
Right? But like, dude, the first time, and it's still, no matter if it's the first time or the 10th time, like, or 9th time, like we did last year, like every year after we like get it all together, and once, cause it's like fundraise, like shop this, volunteers, all this sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden we had, 120 kids worth of toys, clothes. Usually it's clothes that we're getting, and it's necessities, because now we work with the Ennis Center, and who's local to Michigan, local to Detroit, and they're foster children. So I know that these children need it. I know that they do. And, super grateful for one of our clients who turned us on to, she's a foster child herself, and she's like, I know that these people need it. And so of course, like, that's always my thing. I want to know that it's being used for good.
Absolutely.
And so, fast forward, like, and now every year after we drop these gifts, like, man, I just like, it hits me in the feels.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the best. It's like the best feeling, but there's nothing else like that, because it's about something bigger than you. That's, to me, the most magical feeling. And I think that when people start doing things, if you go to like psychology, just in general, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have physiological needs, food, shelter, water, and the next thing is love and belonging. That's that third rung, love and belonging. And people want to contribute. They want to. Simon Sinek said this: when people are financially vested, they want to return. When they're emotionally vested, they want to contribute. So the way that I look at things is like, how are people contributing? And in that, like, that's my benchmark. And man, I just want the people around me to continue to do good. So when I look at my people and my organization, the team, like all that sort of stuff, it is always about the contribution aspect. That's everything. We're like, when it strip it down to our business, we're in the service business, man. We're serving people. So service doesn't just stop at the business. It's who we are as people. So for us, it's about providing a brighter holiday for kids in need. And those kids are foster children. And last year we sponsored 120. We raised $35,000, and we're going to do more this year. We're already off to an incredible start. I know we're going to get 150. And I'm writing the check, the proverbial check right now. We're going to get 150 because it means that much. And like when I sit back and I look at our clients, like they get so fired up. And now that we've expanded this and started to grow a little bit, now we have other, corporate sponsors who are getting involved. I tell you what, like the day, because on one of the first Saturdays in December, we're going to shop, and we'll have almost 100 volunteers shopping for 150 kids. And I'll tell you what, like that feeling is going to be the best feeling. And you're going to watch, like when I see that, like anybody who shows up, like you can just feel it. You can just feel it. And that's the magic that I want to bottle up and give to people. Because when you have that sort of belonging, caring, dude, get out the way because you're unstoppable. You're unstoppable more often than not. It's just you got to find that community that's going to get you in that, point you in that direction. We are way more capable of achieving things than what we actually believe. Sometimes you just got to be in the right room. Yeah. And it's finding
have the right people around you.
It's finding the right room.
Yes. Man, I got to ask, we're so similar in so many ways, and I've been guilty of putting myself on the back burner and neglecting my self-care because I tend to give so much of my time at times, and I have to dial that back, and I can be overly, I don't know, by some people's standards, overly generous, but I feel like I like being a generous person. I like your quote of, I want to die broke, just giving back to people, and that resonates with me. And what are some of the things that you do to fill your own cup back, to full? I mean, because I've been so guilty. That's something that I constantly have to reset and reflect about. Yeah. I have to journal about it. I have to give myself time. Like that's where the jujitsu came into play, because it wasn't just about, a lot of bonuses come with training jujitsu, but really it's mental fitness and just starting from ground zero and just reflecting on myself and my journey so I can continue to give.
To me, I wish I had 2 less back surgeries, because that'd be all about jiu-jitsu, man.
Yeah, I get it.
I love it, dude. Yeah. Like I love the concept of it, because it is, as much as it is a physical thing, it is strategy, it is art. It is, you have to be very aware of everything that's happening. You know, I think it's great. For me, very similar, like physical fitness, man. I lift. I love working out. Working out is like, I go to a place and it's almost like I'm gonna disappear there. I'm gonna find a wall of uncomfortability in that. I mean, you're gonna find out what you're really made of when you lift. And I know we shared this earlier. Sometimes you just don't have it. Right. And those are my favorite days. Because every minute of that workout sucks. And afterwards, you're like, I still did it. Like,
I love those days too. I gotta tell you,
you still did it. And am I happy about the progress that I made physiologically? No. What I'm actually happy about is I won the war between the ears. That's what matters. That is everything. So for me, like that's how I fill my cup. Like one aspect on a regular basis. I need to do that. Yeah. And it's not always lifting heavy. Sometimes it's like, hey, I'm going to hit boot camp. Sometimes it's, hey, I'm going to go on a ruck, or I'm going to do something physical. I'm going to do it out in the yard, like move tree logs and stuff. Like just do something, right? That's one thing that I tend to do on a daily basis. The other thing I tend to do multiple times on a daily basis is walk my dogs, man. That is the one time. It's actually funny. It's cool because I disconnect. I don't take my phone. I don't take technology. And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I got this great idea. Don't lose it. Yes. You kind of have that. Yes. But that's the one time that I disappear.
Just say it to yourself 7 times.
Totally, right? But that's the one time I disappear. And I have 2 dogs, German Shepherd mixes, German Shepherd Lab, German Shepherd Pity, and they're 2 different personalities. And I look at them And I tell stories when I coach our franchise partners and our coaches throughout the brand. I'm like, guys, I want you to live like my Frank and Luna. Like, I want you to live like them. Why? Because every time I come home, like, they're the most excited. I mean, that butt is wagging.
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready to go. Like, they look at you with those, like, hey, they're locked in. They are your sole focus. You are their sole focus, when you're walking in. Don't you want to do that with people?
Yeah.
Don't you want to be like so excited? Like, think about the last time somebody, when you saw them, they were so genuinely excited for the progress that you've made for whatever it is, from your podcast to your nonprofit to everything that you're doing. Like, that sort of like hit of, oh my God, that springboard, like, dude, like, that's like, live that way. Right? Because all of a sudden, like, you're going to become that person, that contagiously infectious person that people want to be around. And all of a sudden, when you're around stuff like that, watch yourself, because you're just going to continue to do great things.
Yeah.
Everybody around you going to continue to do great things. So, like, I try and live my life like my Frank and Luna.
Yeah.
So I fill my cup by taking a walk with them, throwing the ball with them. The little Frank, the little, I say my little one, she's 70 pounds. She loves to play fetch. She'll play with the ball. The big one, she just loves to play fetch with the dog, the other dog. So she'll play chase, right? So
Right.
It's like so funny, man.
Yes.
And two different personalities, but dude, I like live. They recharge me. They keep me grounded. The other thing that I try and do to fill my cup, and I don't get to do this as much anymore, is I'll go into my own facility. And I won't take when I go to my own facility, unless it's a quarterly team meeting, the only thing I bring is my phone. I don't bring my computer. I don't bring anything, because when I'm there, I'm all about the relationship.
Yeah.
Whether I'm talking to clients, whether I'm talking to my coaches, whoever, I'm just there, and I'm living in the moment. And that's hard to do, but that fills my cup, because more often than not, like my brain, and from a personality assessment, I'm a high D and a high C. I'm a high, we follow Take Flight Learning, but
I did Take Flight Learning, yes.
So I'm a high eagle, high owl. So like,
okay.
I'm very task oriented. So when I look at things, it's like, hey, I want to make sure that we optimize the system. We do very well in the system. That's very important for me to make sure that happens. But I can live too much in the system.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't as much, and I know that about myself, and I'm okay. I want to perfect the system. I want to get the system good. You don't play games on paper. You play them in real life on the people side of the spectrum. So I need to inject myself in the people side of the spectrum to ensure that I'm actually understanding, what's happening, when I'm connecting with people. Like, that's really important, because all the good, yes, it needs to get done, the system, like this and that, you need people to do it.
Yeah. Interesting that you brought up Take Flight, because yes, I did the Take Flight when I signed up with Legacy Tribe.
Yeah.
And I had you pegged for Eagle Dove, because I tested Eagle Dove, high Eagle, high Dove. And so Eagle Owl was you.
Eagle Owl. And
Yeah.
it's interesting. The Dove is actually the lowest on my thing.
Interesting.
But it's I actually believe, when you look at my, because there's two graphs, right? Public self, private self. My private self, I have a little higher Dove than it is on public self. And sometimes that happens because at different points in your life, public and private, you will respond to different ways. You flex in certain ways, which is really important. And I've recognized, going back to, helping the needy versus the willing, this is something that I, like, personally, when I look through, I need to do a better job on myself of identifying, like, in my own right, like, hey, am I manufacturing these feelings, or is this actually there? Going back to, I want to help the needy.
Yes.
Or I want to help the willing, not the needy. If I perceive, because I can sometimes perceive somebody who is being needy, and then I'm like, well, they're just being selfish, and that's not actually the case, but that's a double-edged sword. So
Right.
I can understand my inherent, and this does come from, hey, when you're like having to shovel the crap off your back and continuing to step up and like do this, being honest, like, sometimes you look around and I see people who have all the opportunity of the world and choose not to do something with it. And at the end of the day, when someone makes that choice, I don't feel bad for them. And that's where I look at my,
Took me a long time to get there, Barrett.
Takes me a while.
Yeah.
And that's that balancing scale. It's
Yes.
not black and white. It's a spectrum.
Right.
So, I look at, it's like, what can I control? I can control, like, what I'm doing. I can't necessarily always control that emotional component.
Yeah.
So, like, I have found a great deal of, like, personal, like, support and structure off of, the managing processes and stuff like that. So I hope that kind of and that's my own like self-reflection of my own personality. It's not black and white. And,
right.
Yeah. It's something that I've, really worked on over the last decade, is understanding that it isn't black and white, man. It's great.
I love that you brought that up, because as you're in a leadership position and you're a coach and a mentor and, all the things, it's hard to kind of disengage from somebody that isn't willing to take themselves to the next level, even though you can see all their gifts, all their abilities, and, invest all the time in, and they're kind of there, but they're not committed, right? And they're not committed to climbing the mountain, and they want you to drag them. And it's like, you can't drag somebody up the mountain that. You got your own ruck, and like, I'm here to walk with you or climb with you, but like, it's got to come from you.
Totally. And there's a saying that I like. It's like, you better be ready to pack your lunch and somebody else's, but I'm going to carry my satchel and you need to carry yours, so I'll pack your lunch, but you got to carry yourself. And that's kind of something that I've tried to like look through that lens. But if you're carrying your satchel, if you're carrying your pack, I'm going to pull you when you need to be pulled, but if you're expecting me to always carry your bag, no, that can't happen.
Right.
You have to. And I also think by nature of you leading a life where you're always, carrying your own bag, you're always making your lunch and somebody like, doing that sort of stuff, like you set the example.
Yeah.
You set the bar.
Right.
And like I going back to when I go to my camp, my location, like, who do you think's holding the freaking door when I'm there? Yeah. I'm going to hold the door open for everybody.
Right.
Why? Because that's a pinch point. I get to say hi to everybody who's coming in. They're going to have to see me walking through the door, bro. Yeah. Like, and that's the way I think about it. And that's literally what I tell my interns, my new hires. You have no skill right now of coaching, hit them with the hellos. That takes no talent. That just, hey, how's it going? You have the iPad.
Connection.
And you are, hey, help me remind, like, because again, I want my coaches to know who you are.
Yeah.
It comes down to connection and making that. So I just think like when you get around and set that example, like do it over and over and over and over. Eventually, it's like, that's just how we do business.
Yeah.
That's how we do.
I love your practices over there at Fit Body. It's very similar to my 501c3. The 3 C's of my nonprofit are community, connectedness, and companionship. And, my nonprofit is, I call it Third Circle, And so talk about your nonprofit. What is the name of your nonprofit?
I realize it's My Gift, a little play on Michigan, MI-gift. And I always joke around about it. I didn't intentionally set out to create the 501c3, actually. I just, 10 years ago, when we started doing this, it was $800. Well, fast forward about 3 years ago, it became $22,000. And I turn around and our accountant is like, Barrett, you can't be going to Kohl's and spending $22,000 on clothing. You're not a clothing retailer. You're a gym. This is going to look really funny. So you need to start a 501c3.
Yeah.
So I never intended to, but it just kind of happened to end up going that path. And, so My Gift was, although it was a seedling back in 2015, it officially became a federally recognized 501c3 in 2023. And since then, we've been raising, funds and all throughout, right? And again, I never set out with the intention to. It's just like sometimes when you do good things, like you find your way, you find your way. So, I used to have a guy who I used to work with way back when, my previous work life. He'd be like, man, just strap a broom on the back and sweep as you go along. Like you got to just keep going, right? Yeah. And guess what? You'll figure out a lot of things.
Yeah.
You'll also figure out things you don't want to do in the process. And I figured out that, in this, the 501c3 is who we are as people. That's who we are. So when people ask, like, really what I want to tell them is we're My Gift. Like, we're about like humble servants. Not about me, never was, never will be. Like, that's it. When people come through the door, it's not about you. It's not about your workout that you create, that we created. No, it's about how do we make this experience amazing for somebody. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what we want to do. We want to serve people in that way. And I also understand that, having that service mentality, it's it's going to be attractive to the right people, to a certain group of people, who like to contribute, who like to serve. Like for me, I like a culture who wants to serve.
Yeah. Vibe with their tribe.
Oh, dude, for sure.
Yes.
And if you're always looking to serve others and serve a greater good, or more often than not, and it always is hard to, I don't want to speak in absolutes, but when you're in that, you start to become influenced to do other things, like in other ways. And I honestly think, like, in those scenarios, when you are contributing, you will do way more for yourself than you'll ever realize.
Absolutely.
Way more for yourself. And that's not like I don't want to say do it for a selfish reason.
Your soul.
Right? But it is, it's like at the end of the day, like, you will have nothing left but your reputation. What's this saying about Alexander the Great? The world could not contain Alexander's ambition, but in the end, just like everyone else, it was contained by this 6-foot box. Like, we will all be put in that 6-foot, 7-foot box, whatever it is, and everything that we've earned and worked for will be gone. It will be given.
Can't take it with you.
You cannot take it with you. But what you can do is leave an impact behind. And so for me, I think, like, when you have that service-based mentality, when you have that service-based culture, you're going to continue to attract people who that is valuable to, that is intrinsic value to them, and that makes them a better person. And again, I just look forward, like, I want you to be a better person, because if you're a better person, like, fitness is just one aspect of that life, and you're going to do more things with your family, your friends, your life. You'll have memories. You'll actually contribute more to the community. It is a cascading snowball that just continues to go down and continues to get bigger, Not
to mention all the mentors you get to bring into your life when you're providing, giving of service to others.
And it's just people that you meet.
Yeah.
I've met some really amazing people. I've also heard some really incredible stories. And I think more often than not, like, I utilized the pain that I had in my story of our father abandoning us and, all of that to do some good with it.
Yeah.
I'm also not naive enough to know that my scenario really wasn't that bad.
Right.
I had food, I had shelter, I had roof over. I had a education system that was awesome. I had people, I had coaches who gave a crap about me, made sure that they were hard on me. Like, I had it freaking good. I had it better than 99.9% of the people who have ever walked this earth. And at the time, I didn't realize it. I do now, And so what do I want to do? I want to be that mentor who I needed at 6 years old. That's who I want to be. I want to be that mentor to guide people along the way. And I've always said this. I started out in fitness to help people, and I'll never forget the first Saturday session I ran. The first session, it was August 8th. 2015, it was an 8 a.m. session, and we're running it. I had 22 people in the room. There's 21 people in the next session, and I turn around and I see this client, and she's doing a body weight squat. And I had it was the first workout, very simply programmed workout. It's a body weight squat, and I watched her do the squat, and her knees, it was accordion knees. Her knees went forward, heels came up, and I was like, oh my God. I was at that moment, I was like, people need this.
Yeah.
People need this. And that was the moment when I realized, like, oh my God, this is like, I'm going to really, really kind of help people, throughout this. But what I didn't actually realize in that moment, that it wasn't about fitness at all. It was for that slight window, and that was just the gateway to get it there. It was about, what are you doing that's going to make these people better? What are you actually doing? Because yes, we all inherently know that we should be active. Modern science tells us the number one way to prolong your quality of life is resistance training. That is no secret. Like, if you want a better life when you're 80 years old, you should start resistance training now, like, without a doubt. So when I think about that, that is black and white for sure, but that's not why people come.
Right.
And that is not it. That is not why. It is community.
Yes.
Because that is just a part of your life that flows into other. It's like, to me, it's the gasoline.
Yeah.
You can just ram it down, and you keep doing that and watch yourself get out the way. So I just want to create the opportunity, and I look back, and it's the coaches, the people who I've hired, the people who have worked with me, and I look at the people who are in my network, and I'm everything because of them.
Yeah.
And I've been just
I love that you recognize all those people are your mentors as much as you're their mentor.
Oh, for sure.
It's reciprocity. Well, it's beautiful when someone understands that.
I can also learn a pile from my 27-year-old coach, my 31-year-old facility leader. I can learn so many things from them. Sometimes you just got to be quiet and observe, and I think like as we in our lives, like, we get to another rung, and, we have more leadership influence. Sometimes in leadership, you got to follow, man. You got to follow somebody else. And, it's knowing when to take your ego, put it right here. Let's check you out for a second. Let's sit there and let's be a student right now. Because there's a ton that I can learn from whoever it is. And dude, I learned so much from my interns.
Yes.
I learned so much, not just talking about like modern lingo and, like that sort of stuff, but like, but I learn about perspective.
Yeah.
What's important to them at this moment, because that's way different than, when I was 20 years old. There's different things. And we also had a different background. So what's important to you, might be not even on the freaking radar that was for me at that point. But if that's important to you, I need to know it. Because I need to know how I can help you get there. Because if I can help that person get there, like they're going to look back and with fondness about the experience that they have. And again, as I mentioned, like, dude, Father Time's undefeated. I'm not going to live for forever.
Right.
Like my job is to make every person better, leave that imprint that I've had. And that's what I've tried to do, sometimes more successful than others.
I think your retention rate speaks for itself too. I mean, you've got a lot of nice information out there about you, and a lot of people have great feedback. It's amazing. You guys are doing great things over there. I mean, not to mention the nonprofit, and you actually have everybody at that location involved in the nonprofit.
Yeah.
Yes, it's huge.
I want that. That's important to us.
It's just as much theirs as it is you bringing it to fruition.
It is. The only thing I did was I was the one who pointed and said, let's go.
Yeah.
And I being honest, like I look and just, here's some of the things that we do for fundraising. We just did Super Bowl squares. Like, I mean, we start all the way at the beginning. Super Bowl squares, that's one. We did a kids camp, where we do a special like workout for kids, right? We do a competition, the row ski, which is, we get the rower, get the skier, and it's just like a total meters, right? It's a little fun. That's a prelude to our Fit Body Games. That's our big event. That's, that we get people fired up. But shoot, in 2 weeks, on Pie Day, 3.14, where our coach is, we're going to take pies to the face. And guess who loves to pie us to the face? Our clients' kids.
Yeah.
So we get those whipped cream pies. And dude, I'll tell you what, those kids are not forgiving.
Right. I imagine. Yes.
But it's like, dude, we will take pies to the face. We'll do returnable drives, right? We do all of these little things, bucks for burpees. We do song drives where it's like, hey, you put that stuff up. We'll also, and again, Fit Body Games ends up being the biggest corporate sponsor opportunity for us. But our team does these incremental things, month after month after month, these little small little events. And, I look at, there's a quote that I love by W. Clement Stone, and it's, big doors swing on little hinges. It's one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah.
Little things matter. And when I watch our team do the little things, like a returnable drive where 10 cents, I know that they hate taking those cans and putting them in the freaking machine for 25 minutes, to raise, a couple $100, but they do it and they don't complain.
Every penny counts, man.
Every penny counts.
Yes.
And they know that for every $250 we raise, we're going to sponsor another child. So like when we turn around, it's not a like, oh man, this sucks. It is, we got another kid, man. We got another kid.
It's amazing.
It's like the ticker. We got another kid. We got another kid. We got another kid. And we'll do that all throughout the year. And when you put energy behind a good thing like that, watch people go after it. Like, watch people go after it. And I think that's it. Sometimes you as a leader just need to give a little direction and get out of the way and follow.
Yeah.
And I think, being honest, a lot of times, and it's still my inherent, ability, like growing up where I was always like my own solution, like sometimes I want to inject myself into things when that's the first way to break trust, It's like, whoa, hey, and this is one book that I read. There's 2 books I read every year that help me in my journey. One on perspective and one on making sure my leadership capacity stays on a spectrum and is not black and white. And that's Jocko Willink and Leif Babin's The Dichotomy of Leadership.
Yeah. Yes.
Man, that one's tough for me because being an eagle owl, I'm black and white sometimes, but I have to remind myself that life is in gray. So I need to have that spectrum. That's one thing. And the other book is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And he's the late Dr. Viktor Frankl, who's a Holocaust survivor. And that's a perspective book for me, because I think about like my hard childhood.
Yeah.
Frickin' dude, it was like I was living in clouds and eating cotton candy. That's how my life was when I read that book. It reminds me of what's actually really important in life. So those two things I look at when I look at my leadership. Again, going back to dichotomy of leadership, sometimes you got to be okay with it not being exactly how you want. And that's tough sometimes when you've spent your life every bit pouring in and it's not 100% how you see it. But sometimes, like, again, going back, it's like if it's 80% there and he's emotionally bought in or she's emotionally bought in, it's going to be okay. And it's also like learning that that's okay too.
Yeah.
Harder, easier said than done. Easier said than done.
Yes.
Man, for sure.
Man, I am feeling so inspired today. I don't know whether to buy into the Fit Body Bootcamp franchise or just to sign up with Barrett over at Berkley.
Oh man, dude.
Amazing.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm just one spoke in the wheel. Like, being honest. I'm one spoke in the wheel. I look at the coaches that I have and they are everything. Like when I turn around and the people, our franchise partners in the brand, the man, our owners are great. And they care. Like, if anything that I can look at, like, I just want to be around people who actually care.
What's cool for me is that I get to be a part of all the Fit Body Bootcamp folks because I'm Legacy Tribe.
Oh, yeah, man.
So when I go to networking, like I just had Matt Espew from Fit Body Prov. Yeah, Providence. And I mean, I get to network with all those guys and everyone's so inspiring. You guys all have great social media. Everybody's doing great things. It's like once you get around good tribe, it's like you can't help but be inspired. You've got the goosebumps constantly, and it's like, yes.
Dude, and Matt Espew, man, love the guy. I've learned so much from him. And you know the quote that I said, be that mentor that you wish you were when you were at that age? That's a quote from him.
Love that guy.
He told me that, and I still, to this day, that quote echoes in my mind. That's who I want to be.
Yeah.
And I tell him that all the time. Like, dude, you inspire me like this and that. And he inspires me the way he cares and loves his team. Like, I want to be like him, man. Like, that is awesome. He is all about those people.
Yes.
And it shows.
Yep.
And one compliment that I've paid him, it's the Craig Groeschel, Craig Groeschel, he's got a great leadership podcast. He has his little jingle that he says. And this is why I love Matt. I'm like, Matt, when I hear this jingle, I think of you. And Craig Rochelle says, along the lines of, because people want to follow a leader who's real, not a leader who's always right. And Matt is as real as you can get, man. He's raw and real, and I love it, man. Yep. And it's inspiring to see, it's inspiring to see somebody who's just authentically them. And I think, sometimes in today's world, social media can tell you one story, and then, you get to, it's the saying, you don't meet your heroes because you,
right. Yes.
But that happens, but social media can be that way. And, I don't want to live like that through social media. I want to be who I am all the time.
Yeah.
So
that's what I think is very consistent about the Fit Body Bootcamp family and the overall, picture, the big picture for Fit Body Bootcamp is that everyone that I meet is, where business and sales are all part of the thing. I don't see anybody as a salesman, so to speak, right? Like nobody's got the gold chains and the, the Cadillac. It ain't like that, right?
I like to look at it this way. Like, I want you to focus, and I tell this to our franchise partners, like, my goal is to manufacture a 30-minute experience that makes people feel good. It's intertrainment is what I like to do.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Intertrainment.
Yes.
Like, I need to give you training.
Yes.
It needs to be a little fun.
Yes.
It needs to have a little bit of engagement, right? There needs to be some charisma there. I need to be caring. I need to be there. Like, so that's what I'm always, focusing on.
It's the new social media hashtag right there, intertrainment.
And I tell our franchise partners, I'm like, if your product and your experience is good, make selling and marketing easy, man. It's who you are. Yeah. If your product sucks and your 30-minute experience isn't good, you got to sell and market real hard. Yeah. Like, dude, come on. Don't you just want to make it easier on yourself?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. It's easier on yourself when you get people that's who they are.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why when I go and I look at the people who I hire, like, I actually don't care if they're I will pay them. I will put them through school. I will do anything to make sure that they are sound. Now, that is very important to me for sure. But I care about the person before I care about I can train you. I can pay to have you trained. I can't make you a good person. You either are or you're not. Exactly. And I want the people who actually, that is important, that they are willing to do the little thing. Big door swing on little hinges, to do those little things, to hold the freaking door, to greet somebody by name. And then when they walk in, don't say like, hey, Mrs. Jones, how is your son's game? No, hey, how'd Theo do in his basketball tournament?
Yeah.
Like very specific, very important. I want you to know who they are. Like that's so important to me. Because we are not transactional, we're relational. That's what we need to be. That is who we need to become. There's too much in that, and that's my gripe on the way technology has kind of gone. Which is, I just think that true stuff happens in the emotion. It happens in the connection that you get, and that helps burn the fire long after the system. Because at the end of the day, like you can have robots do the system, but
absolutely,
but that's not going to get you anywhere.
Right.
Like really, I mean, that's a good system, but I want some emotion behind it. And again, it all to me, it comes back if you care, and if you care about that experience, and that's what I want. Like it's going to make it, that's why I believe the best owners stick around.
Yeah.
They stay because that's a value of theirs that they want to be a part. And those are the best owners. Those are the most successful owners that we have.
Yeah.
That, and I look at myself, I'm not this like business guru. Like I'm not this whatever. I just know that if I can make people feel really, really good and deliver them a great, service, like that's going to be good.
Yeah.
For everybody. And yes, I'm going to, make a business out of it and we're going to be profitable out of it. But at the end of the day, that allows me to freaking hire people and literally put them in positions to develop them and make them a better person.
Exactly. You're creating positions and jobs for people for the bigger picture.
Oh, yes. That to me is like, and I think, going back to that 6-year-old me, all I wanted was opportunity. Yeah. So like my job now is just to provide opportunity. That's what I want. I want to crack that door open, but I expect the people around me to kick the mother effer down.
Yeah.
Like you got to kick that bad boy, get in there, right? Like I might crack it for you, but you got to kick it down. I think that's just like a culture of, getting good people around you.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, like those people around you will start to elevate themselves in a certain way.
Yeah. Well, the best part is that 2025 Barrett, it is the 6-year-old Barrett getting to do all this stuff.
Oh, it is, man.
It's like full circle.
It is.
It's amazing.
And I never thought I would have a 501c3. And it was
so cool.
It was the biggest, the best accident I've ever had.
Well,
man.
I can't wait to get involved because now that I'm in.
Oh, dude, it's so great. And I'll make sure, like Fit Body Games for sure, dude. Would love to actually have you, whether compete or have fun. Like, dude, it'd be awesome. Be around. But then also, too, when we go to shop, man, and I'll make sure that you know about it.
Oh, you can count on me for sure.
It's huge. And I would love, like, anybody to get involved. It's so funny, man. One of the last times, like, and we've been very fortunate, like, some of the people in our network, they're like, hey, we got coffee from Starbucks for you. So they got this huge thing of coffee.
Yeah.
People at Kohl's are like, oh, is this for us? We're like, sure, go get it, man. Like, and they're like, you guys are doing this? We had people be like, I want to buy gifts for kids out of my own pocket.
Amazing.
Like, I mean, but that's the thing. If you just start doing something,
it catches fire,
dude, it attracts attracts like.
Yep.
Like attracts like.
Absolutely.
Keep doing good stuff, and all of a sudden, like the right people find that beacon. I know I shared this with you. I'm not like I don't love social media personally. Right. But it's important. Yeah. It's important because I want people to understand the good that we're doing and all the craziness that's happening right now. And you can find whatever it is that you want in this life to get pissed off about. I'd much rather have somebody like looking at something that's going to make them feel good.
Absolutely.
And like, kind of put them down, like knock a domino down that's going to knock another domino down that's going to put them on a better track, right?
We do have the power to negate the negativity on social media by sharing what we're doing.
And that's actually the story that I remind myself when we do good things.
Yeah.
It's not me sitting here bragging and saying whatever. It's saying like, listen, you can do something. Yep. I want you to do something. I don't even care if it's my thing.
Yeah.
Like do something.
There it is.
Like just do something, While
I have my own nonprofit, usually while I'm often promoting other people's nonprofits because I'm so
big time
inspired by theirs too. And I'm like, mine isn't the only game out there. Like if mine doesn't inspire you or if it doesn't, if that's not your thing, it doesn't resonate you, man, hit up this one or that one. You know what I mean? I'm part of so many. I get involved in other people's and I'm just as passionate about theirs as I am my own.
For sure. And I think sometimes also people have, especially the more successful you get, you're just like, well, I'll just write you a check and donate. Don't get me wrong. That's important. Like you need that. But if somebody can't do that, you're not in the financial position to do that. Like, what are you doing to volunteer?
Right.
Like, man, I'll tell you what.
Valuable.
Like, when I went where Bryce, Em, and I, when we went to school, like volunteering was a part of who we are. We had service requirements in high school in order to graduate. At the time, I didn't understand it, of course, because that's the problem with the youth. It's wasted on the young.
Yes.
Right. But you look back, and that actually started opening eyes.
Yeah.
That started opening eyes. And I think more often than not, we just get so caught up in our own perspective. And I do too, that sometimes I want to get like punched in the face so I can take a step back and be like, whoa, what's the big picture here? And I think it's, again, easier said than done. But when you are around people or you put yourself around people, those opportunities don't get so much punched in the face, but they get, hey, take a look at this.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you find out about something else that really does, light that fire, and you go after it. So if people are looking for, to make a difference, don't always think about just stroking the check. Think about rolling the sleeves up. Like rolling the sleeves up is huge, because like sometimes it's actually about the relationships you build and forge while the sleeves are rolled up.
A lot of times when you're putting on an event, because I'm no stranger to putting on events, not to the magnitude that you guys got going on over at FitBody, but it's hard getting extra hands to help. And sometimes like you have all the money, but you don't have the hands.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like the hands help too, man.
And that is, I'll be honest, that's where, there's the Gandhi quote, right? The best place to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others.
Yes.
Dude, that's what I've done for the last decade. Man.
Yeah. I love it.
And it fills my cup. It honestly fills my cup.
Yeah.
And it is a reminder, when I do it, that like, man, I'm doing the right thing. And
Yeah.
I do want to die broke. Because it's like I've given it all away, and I've given everything, even like, to the last drop of me.
Yeah. Now, when you guys have those events coming up, do you guys put it up on social media when you're looking for volunteers, or is there a place for people to sign up?
So that's actually one of the biggest opportunities that I need to be working on this year, is actually building my list. Because again, remember, this all up until really like 18 months ago, this was all just like self-contained within the gym.
Yep.
And now it's started to roll out. So now like my big, ambition of what I need to do is, we got the website last year. So it's like, now we're starting to make some traction.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So now it's like, hey, get the list, start pushing this stuff out. We spent a little time in social media. So now we're going to start really, putting stuff in and putting attention to it. One of the things that I've really done and had great success, and one of the I love helping young people. Yeah. Is we have an internship program with Wayne State, where we're one of their, for exercise science kinesiology. Amazing. They can send students, and we've had, quite a few. So now as we continue to go with the 501c3, I'm going to be looking to Wayne State, like, hey, what other interns do you got that could potentially help out? And at the same time, it's like getting people involved in things that they like to do, or things that tickle their fancy and really that they're drawn to. So people who are in the nonprofit space can go down there and get some exposure. So this year, I'm putting a big effort on, hey, get the email list shored up, get stuff going, and then make sure that we have bigger events. Going back to the big doors, little hinges, I want to find some good hinges that can have big reach.
Yeah. I want to help in any way that I can. So I definitely want to make sure that we share the website. What is the website?
My Gift, it's MI-gift.com. My Gift, MI-gift.com. And it's a very simple website, very straightforward. There's a couple videos, there's a spot to donate if that's great. But
cool.
The big thing that I encourage the audience and your listeners to do is just go and look at the videos.
And there's a contact too, right? So if somebody wanted to reach out and say, hey, I want to volunteer, they can just email that contact.
And for us, like and one of the big things that I'm going to continue to do again is get the email list going, so I can start sending stuff out and really, getting people involved, because I do think I never thought, like 10 years ago, I never thought what we did or what we've done would happen.
Wow.
I just literally thought, like, I want to feel good about like helping the 6-year-old me.
Yeah.
Like that was it. And now, like, I've created an incredible freaking problem. I don't say problem, but
it's
like
a good problem.
It's a good problem,
yes.
right? I've created this incredible thing.
Yeah.
And now it's like, man, it's almost like it's becoming such a big thing. Instead of me focusing on my HQ stuff and my, my own location, it's like, shoot, now I got to make some more time for this.
Yeah, I love it. That's a good problem to have.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And again, that's the one that really gets me in the feels.
Yeah.
It gets me in the feels, and it brings people together. And I think that, the last couple of years has been a little bit tough. I mean, COVID was polarizing.
Oh, my God.
The last political cycle was polarizing. It's still, polarizing, and you hear it. And at the end of the day, people have different perspectives. That's okay. I totally respect that. The perspective that I like, really, really like, is helping other people. So, and I think a lot of people, regardless of where you come from, you can get behind that. And what I recommend is just getting behind a cause that you actually have heartstrings to.
Yeah.
Because when your why is strong enough, and I know people talk about this, when your why is strong enough, it's going to help keep you going when that mood you said your commitment in has left you.
Right.
Because everyone's like, hey, New Year's resolutions, and then we started on that, like, hey, what are you looking for? It's like, oh, I'm going to lose 30 pounds. And you get excited about it. And all of a sudden, the alarm clock at 5 a.m. starts hitting after the fourth week in a row. And you're like, man, this is tough. And you're like, yeah, that's right. Like, that feeling of me being excited is gone. So, like, what's the system that you have to keep you going?
Right.
And it's very similar. I mean, use some emotion to get you started, but you need to have something that's going to be your rock when life punches you in the face. And it's going to punch you in the face.
Absolutely.
So, for us, that system and the system this year is going to be like, let's get the email list going. Let's get this. Let's get these little things
go.
And build, baby.
Yes. So, now, where can people find you where can people find the Berkley location? What's the website for that?
So it's www.berkleyfitbody.com, berkleyfitbody.com. You can reach out to us at info@berkleyfitbody.com to find us. We are located right off of Coolidge Highway, just south of Catalpa, which is like 11 and a half mile in beautiful downtown Berkeley. We're right across the street from the high school, man. It is, and Berkeley's this like special, magical place. There's no bus systems in Berkeley, so the kids walk to school, which is awesome. And you get to see that. They get like all fired up. There's a whole bunch of just like really, really neat things. Berkeley just has this like special spot in my heart of just good people.
Yeah.
And I think, that's when you look at business in general, like I want to be doing business with people who want to be doing business with good people, and I've caught lightning in a bottle, man. I went to the right place, had a good set of values, had a good, vision for the type of program and service that I wanted to develop. And, at the same time, it was very fortuitous to get guided to go into this exact community, exactly where we wanted to be. And
very intentional,
very, very intentional. And, you don't, there's parts of your life where people have given you a little help, giving you a little, point of this and that. And I think more often than not, like we're like, every politician's a self-made man or woman who was, born in a log cabin that they built themselves, right? Like that's like the story that everybody tells. And it's like, well, dude, listen, we all had help somewhere.
Yeah.
We all had help along the way, man. And I look at my like mentors and coaches, and my growth comes down to my mentors and coaches, my teachers, and I can sit back to my high school coaches, Coach Zatkowski, Coach Kelly, Coach Verska. Like these people were freaking hard because they loved us.
Yeah.
They loved us.
Yep.
They were hard on us because they saw the potential. They saw the potential, and they risked everything, their personal relationship with us, as athletes and students, to be hard on us because we knew we didn't want it to be hard. Now they weren't tyrants,
right?
But they were firm,
and
they were like, this is how we do things. And man,
I like that mentality. And because today, I think we see a lot of folks that are so willing to throw in the towel on someone that holds us accountable.
Oh,
and I really want to see that turn.
Oh, big time.
Oh my God, we got to bring it back to just being able to ride it out when someone holds you accountable.
And man, I just think that is actually a trait that I admire. And man, I looked because like I watched some of my friends get pissed off at the coaches when it's like, man, I mean, at the end of the day, they're just calling you out, right? They're just calling you out on what you need to do.
Yeah.
And I just think that is the highest, like somebody cares, that much about you, that they're going to be firm with you, and they're willing to allow like you to have a, crummy perception of them because they're firm about this.
Right.
It's like, no, the perception, the wrong perception is this person allowing you, like letting you off.
Yeah.
You know, and I think like having that set of good framework, support, and tough love, man, that helps people. And I'm grateful for them. And I like sit back and I still, to this day, I cannot tell them I'm grateful and thankful enough for them. And I always will. And I think sometimes they look at me like, you know, when I send them an email, like I'm too grateful. I'm like, no, guys.
No such thing.
I'm like, guys, I don't think you understand. Like I sit back and I'm like, all of this was possible because my coaches were freaking hard on me.
Yes.
They did not accept anything less than my best. And like how fortunate I was to have somebody in my life that did that when, you know, I thought at my life, like my dad didn't even want to do that. Right. So like how fortunate I was, like that is the thing that hits me right here.
Yeah.
And still hits me right here. Every moment, like when I think about them, like I get like, you know, swelled up with emotion.
Yeah.
Because I look in the mirror and I'm like, everything that you've built, like wasn't possible without those people over my shoulder who were, you know, being that like lever, that catapult, shoving me up, you know?
Yeah.
And I think like, you know, sometimes we forget about that.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. We're very similar in that way. I always give props to my mentors, and you know, I never threw in the towel on them. They never threw in the towel on me, and I still connect with all my mentors at various times, even though it's not every day. You know, every week, every month. We're still in connection.
Dude, that's it. And like I tell people too, it's like, dude, when you think of somebody, send them a text message right now.
There it is.
Right now, and you send them an email. It doesn't have to be long-winded, this whatever. Be like, hey, dude, I was just thinking about you. Like, love you, care about you.
Yes.
You know, just wanted to say, hey, man, and I hope you're crushing something today.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like, those little things. Tell me what person in your life have you ever gotten a text message like that and you're like, oh, that's dumb.
Right.
Like, no, you're like, oh,
exactly.
Sweet, bro.
Yes.
Like, God, I just got like a shot of life, right?
Someone thought of you, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, and I just think that's a lost art.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
That's gratitude checklists are a lost art, and I highly recommend anybody to do that. One person a day, and just say, who are you thankful for? Write it down, and then send that person a note. Man, voice shot them something. It costs you 30 seconds, you know, but what does it do for them?
Absolutely. Well, that is a great note to close on.
Yeah, man.
I love that. And I want to thank you for taking the time to come out here today and share all these words of wisdom, and all your initiatives are amazing. Yeah. I can't wait to jump in and get involved.
Dude, I can't wait.
It's going to be so good.
Wait.
This is 2025 is going to be a good year for everyone all around.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah. So I'm excited to have you. Like number one, Fit Body Games. Number two, just getting involved with it. I would love to see you down there shopping and that sort of stuff. I mean, it's just a big emotionally like charged up event. So.
Absolutely. Well, you're also welcome back anytime you want to get the word out about any initiatives that you got going prior to. So we'll make sure that we spread the word.
I love that.
Yeah, we'll share it on social. We'll put all the handles up. And a big thank you to Barrett Henson from Fit Body Boot Camp.
Heck yeah.
Thanks. That's a wrap.